Welcome to Rising Tides, the business podcast where we explore how business professionals across industries make waves and rise above the competition. Join Angela Merziff and myself, Kim Hayden, as we talk to inspiring business professionals from entrepreneurs to executives about the strategies and tactics they use to get ahead. From their failures to their successes, you'll get an inside look at what it takes to make it in the business world today. Ready? Are you excited, Angela?
I was dancing. That was
I know, it gets
fun clip.
excited. Yeah, awesome.
Good
Awesome.
music.
Well, I'm Kim.
I'm Angela.
Awesome. And welcome to Rising Tides. Super excited that you are here with us. And you know what? Today we're going to be talking about, are you stuck in sales hell? Seriously, this is one that gets us all stuck. Today, our guest expert is going to give us top tips for relationship-based sales that you're going to love. You know, she is a published author, so many other things. This is going to be super exciting because you know what? We all need help. I need help. You know, Angela, do you need help?
Always.
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 Cassie Mackenzie started her sales career with a zero sales experience, and as a 21-year-old pharmaceutical rep with braces and a bad haircut, calling on customers twice her age. She developed her own braces. Okay, sorry. We got to start over. This will be edited in post, folks, because that's too good. I know that. I know that feeling. I've had many bad haircuts and I had braces twice. She developed her own consultative sales method and closed over 20 million in sales in 2 years, rising to the top of the rankings year after year and training over 1,000 others to do the same. Now, as a sales coach, she helps coaches and consultants get their first six figures by attracting aligned and qualified leads and fully booking out your offers. After working with Cassie, you start loving sales. You know what? And this is going to be an excellent conversation. Let's bring Cassie. All righty. Welcome to the show, Cassie. This is exciting.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
You're talking about the one thing that so many of us really shy away from. And I don't know if it's, not having the confidence in what we're selling or how we're doing it, but it's going to be a great conversation. Angela, kick us off.
Yeah, well, I know Cassie a little bit here. We met on LinkedIn a few months ago, and I just love her energy and her willingness to share her knowledge with everybody on LinkedIn. But for those of us who don't know you, who are watching, tell us who you are, Cassie, and maybe a funny story about you, some insights as to who you are.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. This is so much fun. I want to first thank you guys for inviting me. I'm very honored to be here, and I always have a funny story of some way, shape, or form. It just depends on what category you want it to be in and how kid friendly you want it to be.
Anything goes. No worries.
Yeah, I think the most impactful one for this discussion, though, is like around what Kim just introduced me as. Like, I actually have a photo of myself in Chinatown at training when I was in working for Johnson & Johnson. I was 21 years old here, and you can see it. Look at me in that.
Oh, wow.
Look at me, bracelet. You can't see the braces because I got the hoping. And then I went to Ann Taylor and I thought I'd be able to like look a little older, maybe get the power cut, but I've got very thick hair. And so it just turned into a mushroom. It was bad. And so everybody, and then I also didn't realize that petite clothes, if they were on sale, that petite clothes meant that like your legs literally were shorter than average. And so I still, I was like, oh, well, I'm a 4 or 6 or whatever it was back then, like I'll just get the petite ones because they're on sale. Like that'll be fine. And then I was like, oh, why are they so short? So it was a big hot mess. And, going into this realm where all of my coworkers were twice my age at least. I mean, I was lucky enough to be part of a college overhire program where they hired us right out of college because they can pay us less and, kind of mold us into what they want us to be. But it was, I called on oncology practices. So not only were my customers sometimes 3 times my age, but they were also, helping people live longer, and like trying to extend people's lives. So it was like a life or death situation too. And authority-based selling just couldn't work for me. Like I couldn't walk in and be like, "Hey, buddy, I know I've been alive and on earth about as long as you've been in college post like high school, but I'm going to tell you how to treat anemia due to chronic kidney disease." I'm like, "No, you're not going to do that." So there was no like showing up and pitching, and there was a lot of earning the right to ask for the sale. But mainly I learned through being more of a like irreplaceable consultant that showed up in the offices and built relationships with everybody in the office instead of a salesperson that showed up just to talk to the doctor. And then after talking to the doctor, expected the nurse to do what they wanted them to do. Like it just didn't work that way. And I feel it translates a lot online too. Because you have those people who show up and they're like, "I took a look at your YouTube channel and I made this quick video, and here's the 11 shitty things that you've totally effed up there and how you can get 1,000 new followers today." And you're like, "Well, thanks. Glad you took the time to do that, but I'm turned off completely and I'm not going to hire you because I don't want somebody who sounds like my mom telling me I cleaned the bathroom wrong." You know what I mean? Like I started a YouTube channel. That's better than 99% of the other people out there who are afraid to do it and keep themselves from doing it. You know what I mean? So I think it's all about like in relationship, not just with who you're selling to, but with yourself too. So there's so much to this discussion, and we only have such little time.
It's amazing though. Little things can, short time can actually relay a lot of
Yeah,
information.
yeah, I know.
What do you believe, what makes you unique? Actually, it's funny because you just touched on, I've gotten a lot of those emails lately that your YouTube sucks.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so it's not just me. I just thought everybody all of a sudden saw but then I go, "Oh, but you found it. How did you find my
I
YouTube?"
know, right? You went
So
there.
so you work to coach people to get, I guess it's almost getting comfortable within their own unique way of selling.
Big part of it, yes.
But what is your unique way of getting people to sit up and listen and trust in you guiding them?
Well, yeah, everybody can say they have experience too. You know what I mean? Like I fell into the trap of being like, "Oh, I'm going to hire this person who said they've helped 100 clients to sell online." And like, you don't know I mean, I helped over 1,000 people just in sales training in those roles too, and continue to do so for pharmaceutical companies and do sales support for companies and things like that because I just love it and I could do it in my sleep. And but as far as like a different angle that I like to take is there's a lot of people teaching sales strategy, but what makes me different is the sales energetics. And I am a manifestation queen, and I add the manifestation type energy principles and laws of abundance and laws of not just attraction, but action as well. Like these are irrefutable laws of the universe that apply to your sales too. And it's not all crazy, like woo woo mumbo jumbo. Like if you look at where you are great at business, I'm guessing you have a clear energetic path. There's no resistance. Nothing saying that you deserve lower standards, you know what I mean? Or that you're not worthy and deserving of helping people brand their, best life or whatever, their best business. But then in those areas where you're maybe attracting lower quality clients, maybe lower prices, maybe like not even buyers for your offer, there's a lot of inner work and kind of like, what are you calling in to allow that to be the results? We need to look at that
Mhm.
too. It can't just be strategy. It's like 80% energy.
Yeah, I remember when I took my first business course, and the first module was about mindset.
Yeah.
And I thought, "Oh, come on, let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to the tactics, right? I want to know how to do the thing." But then I was so thankful. I went through that module and everything, of course, and I was so thankful that I did that because without that, like you say, you're your own block. You're blocking yourself
You really
from
are.
getting where you want to go.
Yeah, and, like, there's so many ways that can play out. One of the ones, because I love sharing my hangups because I know, like, there's a lot of people online who won't, and it's
Yes.
crap because you know that, like, they didn't just sit in a bathtub and decide to put an offer on Instagram story and make $1,000,000. Like, there are aligned actions and a lot of inner work that probably led up to that moment that they could do that, but like a lot of times people don't share, okay, what's going on, what typically comes up for you mentally, because you've probably heard the phrase new level, new devil. Some people say new level, same devil. Like it's the same types of limiting thoughts that are going to come up at this level for you, whether you're making $100 and you're trying to move to 1,000 a month, or whether you're at 10,000 or 1,000 a month and you're trying to get to 10, or whether you're at 10,000 a month and you're trying to get to 100, right? Usually it's the same types of thought patterns that your subconscious has been programmed to believe throughout your life that keep popping up at these different levels. And it's your job to notice which ones come up. So like for me, it comes up as, how am I going, if I'm working this hard to make this amount of money, then how am I supposed to 10 times that and make this amount of money? Because your mind wants to work so logically. So that's one that I always have to work through. And I'm like, okay, I know that's how it would linearly, the linear way makes sense. But logically, if I talk this out, it actually doesn't make sense because that's what the whole point of scaling would be. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
the mind isn't thinking in that way. So that's why this work, the mindset work is so important.
Yeah, and that's why it should come first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing. Okay. So I know you're very generous online. You share a lot of tips when I see your posts on LinkedIn. For our audience today, can you give us, I mean, you've done some, preemptive work here telling us about mindset and all that,
Yeah.
which is a great, thing to start with always. But what are some actionable steps that you could give? Maybe up to 3 actionable steps that you could give our audience that they can take away today and just start thinking about implementing in their sales process. What would those be?
Yeah. Okay. Because I'm huge on this strategy too. So
Yeah.
I mean, my brain wants to go into the tactics and the strategy as well and totally ignore the mindset part. That's why I'm like, I gotta bring that up. But yes, strategy, it's so important. And okay, the first thing I want to say is all strategies can work, but you've got to figure out what works for you. But underlying every strategy are certain themes. And I think we can all agree that you need to know your ideal client frontwards and backwards, and know that there are so many types of people out there that literally whatever you want them to be, they can be, right? So for example, if I want if I want to start talking more about manifestation and sales, right? With manifesting sales into your life, then I could come onto LinkedIn saying, holy crap, like this is a professional place. This is going to be rejected. There's nobody here who's going to listen to that. Nobody's going to get it, right? But I'm not being very abundant in that kind of thinking and in that kind of strategy, because I can literally pick an ICA who loves manifestation, who listens to podcasts about it all the time, who's wondering how to apply that to business, who wants it to be easier, who wants to drop the hustle, and knowing all these, not having to work 12 hours a day at your computer and respond to every comment right away, like knowing that there's a energetic portion to it that can do the heavy lifting, but having that strategy down. Like if you're trying to throw all of these, the energy and mindset at a strategy that's not working or that's not clear, like then and you haven't really looked, because I'm the first one that will say I love skipping right past the ICA. I'm like, let me just go to what I'm talking about. Let me just go to what I'm selling, right? And
Right.
I mean, it's so hard work. I did a 4-day series last week called the Red Hot Audience Boot Camp. It was a lead generation challenge where we started with ICA, and half the people dropped off during the first call, and they dropped off because I was starting to put a little pressure on how fluffy it was and how they were resistant to not accepting just everybody, right? And I was like, how can you serve all of these different people? Tell me you're not getting any leads and then refuse to niche down and be able to speak to one type of person in your content, right?
Yeah.
It's just it blows my mind on one side, but then on the other, I can see where you're like, well, I want to appeal to everybody because what if I'm leaving somebody out? But the more abundant way to look at it is, well, there's a certain person out there that is literally opening LinkedIn and then shutting it because it looks like everybody's selling something and nothing speaks to them because it's all so general, right? And so when you
Mhm.
to somebody who woke up today thinking, damn, I wish I didn't have to follow like a million strategies. I wish I could just figure out what's aligned to me, and I'm up there talking like, here's how to find your like aligned strategy, like makes it feel like you're not even working at all when you show up and sell. Like, then they're going to peak. That's going to pique the interest, right?
Yeah, you have to do that work, that foundational work. We
Yeah.
we love to just skip right to tactics because 'cause they're the shiny thing that is gonna get us the business, but like you
Yeah.
say, if you're selling to everyone, you're really talking to nobody.
Yeah.
So
And then and it all builds on itself. So like, if you once you know who that person is, because that's a huge part of sales, knowing the right person who you're talking to and then being able to communicate the right message to them. I feel
yeah.
like the majority of people are afraid of sales because they're afraid of what they're going to say once somebody gets in front of them. But if you know what your message is, you know what you stand for, you know what you'll accept and what result you can get, then it becomes easier because it's just a conversation. It's no different than you talking to your husband or your boyfriend or girlfriend about like, are we going to have Thai food or pizza tonight? Because I could see both of them being cool and I could see the benefits of both, but tell me what you think. Like, it really shouldn't be that much more of a conversation around, you know what I mean? Like when you're talking to them about what service you provide, you shouldn't have to feel that pressure there.
Mhm.
Quick
Yeah.
question. I'm going to jump in here. ICA, for
Yeah.
those who
Oh,
are not in the
Mhm.
lingo here, what is ICA?
So I consider it to be ideal client avatar. I saw somebody yesterday say ideal client audience. So that I don't want to confuse you there, but I'm talking about like your ideal client, like the ideal client persona or person that you want to work with. That would be like if you had 100 of them in your inbox today, you'd be like, holy crap, I'm so excited. These are the right people I want to work with, right?
Your people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we talked about strategy a little bit and starting with a strategy. What about how does relationship come into this? Because I know that's one of your,
Yeah.
phrases that you use and taglines that
Yeah.
you use. Relationship-based sales. What does that mean to you?
Okay. Well, Kim, when you got that message about your YouTube account, did you feel like they were trying to create a relationship with you?
No, I'm like going, I've been working 2 years on this. I'm
Yeah.
done. I'm out of here.
Yeah. It kind of, and I won't say the word because I know we're on a professional forum here, but it kind of feels like when you're single and you're on those single dating apps and somebody sends you a picture that you didn't ask for that makes you want to throw up right
Oh,
then and
those
there.
pictures.
Right, those ones.
Yes.
Where you're like,
Yeah.
what would even lead you to believe that that would attract me to you? I've been through 1,000 of these stupid dates and I don't want to have to see that stuff. I am over it. You know what I mean? It's the same kind of feeling where you're like, and then you start to think, gosh, well, is this how it is? Is this how online dating is? Is this the future? Is this my only hope? Just like with DM sales, right? Like I teach people how to sell in the DMs, especially with coaching offers and consulting. I mean, if you're selling to a company, that's a little different because obviously there's like proposals involved. But if you're a coach and you're selling your offers, then I believe that it's just as easy to sell in the DMs, even with high ticket offers, as it is to get on a sales call because you can ask similar questions. You can create even sometimes better of a relationship. You're not pressed for time. And let's face it, people are going to, you can do the voice notes too, and like get to hear somebody's voice that way. But if nobody has ever experienced a situation in the DMs where it actually felt good and they actually purchased something, or like somebody bought something from them in the DMs and it was like a fun, nice experience, then you're going to just assume that every person, or that if somebody asks you, or if you go out there to try to create a DM strategy, that that's how it's going to be too, right? That that's what's going to be asked of you, when it's not at all. Like, that's where I love, that's where my relationships are created on LinkedIn, to be honest with you, is in the DMs and in the comment section, obviously, but showing your personality and asking about the person. Like, once one of my clients actually is like helps with habits and stuff. And like the first message to her, I literally genuinely was like, "Hey," like we just connected and I looked at her profile. I saw she was like, helping women reshape their habits around like perimenopause. And I was like, "Hey, oh my God, have you read Atomic Habits? I love that book." Like that was what started our conversation. And we were on a call together just a couple of days later. This was back when I was doing sales calls. But like, you know, it can be as simple as that. It's no, like you've been in a situation where there's been a mix of adults there, and there's some you gravitate to, and then there's others that you're like, "Ugh, I just don't want to get stuck in a conversation with that guy because he just doesn't shut up." Like, and it sounds really boring. You know what I mean? Like, you can feel that a mile away too online, because you're like, okay, does this person actually like it comes from like your intentions, right? Like there's different intentions and you can feel it. Like you can feel when somebody's reaching out to you to get something out of it versus somebody that's like genuinely just asking about, your business or your life or whatever.
Mhm.
So and you can kind of tell, and they can too, what your intention. So you have to look at it like, well, this connection here could be a connection that maybe it's somebody in search of branding help that I send to Angela. Maybe
Mhm.
it's somebody who ends up being a client of mine, which would be cool. Maybe it's somebody who I end up on their podcast, or they end up on mine, or we collaborate some other way, or we have common interests, or they've a friend that's looking for a job or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different ways that you can be of service online. And I think that's where you need to like approach that relationship based sale from. It's coming from a sense of service instead of like, what's in it for me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, the reason you're on this podcast is because we started a
Oh, right.
relationship on LinkedIn, and you're very good at just being friendly, and I think I responded to one of your posts where you just explained a little bit about who you were and said, "Hey, if you wanna chat for coffee or
Yeah.
coffee chat, like a virtual coffee chat, hit me up," and I did because I was like, "This looks like a friendly gal," and
Yeah.
that was great. So I liked your
I won't
style, and why not, right?
blame.
But yeah, it leads to other things, and I think having that precursor of understanding to have that abundance mindset
Yeah.
that, hey, maybe it's not gonna lead to a direct sale, but maybe you'll become a cheerleader of my brand, or
Mm,
maybe something
yeah.
else, or right? We're all connected. It's
Yeah.
like the 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon,
Oh
that
my
kind of
God.
thing.
Right. So now,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm thinking
yeah.
like Matthew
So
McConaughey
what
these days.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. What would you say to someone who is afraid of, like, what do I say in the DMs? Like, I want to get in there and I want to start building relationships, but I don't want to bug people, or I don't want to come across the wrong way, or I don't want them to think I have an ulterior motive. I kind of do because I need to make sales. Like, what about that person that doesn't know what to say or to get that conversation started?
Okay. Well, I have three responses that come up from that one question. And the first one comes from the money mindset. So if you're looking at people and you're looking at connections because that's who your money has to come through, then that's where it's going to be blocked. Because the truth is, money can come from a million different ways. And so if you're putting the pressure on it having to come from the people that you reach out to on LinkedIn or Facebook or your posts or whatever the case may be, then it's always going to come, like your messages are always going to come from that vibe of this person's bothering me, versus versus them looking forward. So one mindset thing so I'm going to give you that tip, and then a mindset tip that's just a general one, and then an actual strategy. So But from an energetics standpoint, what if you start looking at your interactions as people are so excited to see that I messaged them, right? Like you sending a message out with like the thought of they're going to be so excited when they see this in their inbox versus the mindset of, oh, am I bothering this person? Are they going to be like pissed that I asked this question? Are they going to think I'm one of those scammy people? Are they going to know that I'm selling something? Well, if you're online and you're selling something, then it's okay that they know that you're selling something, right? Like that's your job. Your business depends on it. You know, like we've got to get over the fear of people thinking you're selling something because you are, right? It's like wondering, worrying about people wondering if you got up and you're going to poop today. Like you're going to poop today. Like nobody's walking around wondering when's the last time she did it, right? Ha ha ha. You know what I mean? Like it's just a fact of life. It happens. People do it. And people in online businesses sell. So everybody sells. It's okay. Everybody sells. Just get over that one first. But then also from a strategy standpoint, when you're approaching it with the right energy of people are going to be super excited, like whoever gets this is in the right, and I trust that it's the right person and they're going to be excited to hear from me, then you can also message them something innocuous. Like a lot of times I respond to people that who I've connected with or who connect with me with, hey, it's so great to meet you. I'm just, who do you connect with on LinkedIn? I'm always meeting new people and I'd love to like I love connecting the right people because it's true. I do. I love connecting the right people. Other times you can look at I would recommend your strategy be that you're only connecting with ideal clients, to be honest, too, because that way it makes this a whole lot easier. You're not struggling for something to look for and to ask them about because you already know what their business is typically about, and you're just like for me, I work with coaches and consultants, so I'm like, what type of people, coaching clients do you seek out on LinkedIn? I love connecting people. Or I'm like, if I notice that they're newer and that it seems like they might still be struggling for clients, and they're like, well, I help you like with your anxiety. Like I kind of niche it down a little for them. Like what specifically type of person do you look for? So that then it gets them thinking, right? And then that starts a conversation around like, oh, well, I just wasn't sure because, sometimes I'm like, I'm not sure who you work with because your profile just kind of says it's like 3 or 4 different types of people. So which one is it? And then I've had people be like, you're the first person to tell me that it was unclear what I did. And thank you for that because it's forcing me to look at it more. And maybe that's why I haven't signed a client in 6 months. Like it starts all kinds of great conversations. But here I'm coming from it as a standpoint of like, it's not a numbers game at all. A lot of coaches teach you sales is a numbers game. And while kind of when you're getting no's, it's kind of it can be at first, but eventually it's just everything's a game. Like life is a game. Like nobody knows what they're doing. We're all just playing the game, right? We're alive today, another day.
Do that.
Like it's take the pressure off, make it more of a game,
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sorry, kitten.
My
Yeah,
my head is just
Did I leave you speechless?
you know what? It's interesting because I'm at a point in my career because I'm 2.5 years into this, and and like a lot of people, I have switched and pivoted along the way as I'm finding my footing. Right?
Yeah,
Does not mean that I gave up on something or
right.
that I did not. It means that as I'm moving, I'm gauging my passion and my proficiency, and that those 2 things will require pivots, right? They
Yeah,
passion, proficiency will require
yeah,
pivots because if you're truly moving and growing in those 2 spaces, right?
totally.
But it's interesting because I do have proficiency in one space. I'm not going to leave that on the table. I've got 20 years of that experience. I'm going to move forward with that. But it's not congruent
Hmm.
or fluid with my passion. So
Yeah.
I have these 2 different audiences. What do you say to people that do have 2 different audiences and they've rightly earned 2 different audiences? How do you approach them and helping them clear up that sales message? Because it can be a little muddy.
So what are your 2 audiences per se? That if
One, is I love newbie agents. I love new real estate agents that are open to doing the hard work, and
Mhm.
that's the community level work.
Yeah.
I train community agents. That's what I do. That's where I made $7 million.
Yeah.
And it's and all of the top 1% real estate agents in residential real estate in the United States will tell you they have a farm market, and it's not just online. They have a farm market. So that's what I teach them is those strategies. My other is my resilient women,
Yeah.
Mhm. Because I don't care if you're designing underwater harps. The reality is that everybody has somebody out there, and everybody is always there's always going to be somebody a step ahead of you. But if
Right.
we all shared that step, we
Mhm.
can make all those steps less and less painful, less
Mhm.
challenging, right?
Yeah.
And there's and the beauty of an online world is that there's people in countries that are evolving that are now looking at us going, "Oh, they do this, they do that," and we're helping to create economy, be it a little micro economy, which in one block, a single mom can find an
Mhm.
extra $2,000 a month,
Yeah.
or a woman in South Africa gets an inside strategy that she can apply in her market, and she now has a personal income, right?
Mhm.
So those are my 2 audiences, totally different, and
Mhm.
yet they do cross over because they're all community based.
Totally, yeah. My husband's from South Africa, so it's interesting you said
I
that.
actually have had a few people reach out to me from South Africa going, I listen to your podcast all the time, and I love the people you talk to because I don't everything's not just one.
Yeah.
It's not sales is not just sales. Sales has all of these components, and you have to be a very well-rounded person in
Mhm.
order to connect, right? So that's why, I love talking to authors, I love
Mhm.
talking to volunteers, all those things. Speaking of like that community involvement, we talk the name of the show is Rising Tides,
Right.
right? Because rising tides raise all ships. So if we all work together, right? And Angela, she's so good at this. She came up with that. It's like, oh, that's it.
I love
So
it.
what do you do, Cassie? Because we've talked about sales, we've talked about getting into the DMs, working to connect with people,
Mhm.
really doing this. What do you do to rise tides for others? How do you serve your communities? What is Cassie's the bigger picture here?
Totally, yeah. Well, I provide a lot of, like, free content on LinkedIn and through my YouTube and through my podcast as well, and it's interesting you brought up the topic of blending the 2 audiences because when I finished my sales career or got laid off the last time, I guess, this was back in 2019, the company I was working for went out of business, and that's when I went full time in my coaching business. And I was a manifestation and money mindset coach back then. And so over time, though, I got kind of tired of talking just about money. It felt kind of shallow. I wanted to give people a way and an avenue to actually make it, right? To create these streams of income. And so I pivoted last year back into business coaching and then found that to be way too broad. Like I just want to like help everybody with everything, right? But I realized I need to niche this down. And so that's when I went back to my roots, which was sales. And so it's funny how like it is a winding path when you don't have somebody telling you what the path is, like in corporate America. But then, you know, now I'm adding more of that energetics and mindset into it. I mean, manifestation, because I really feel like they can all come together. So I used to have a podcast called The Topless Manifester, which was about creating a topless amount of like abundance into your life, right? And it was super fun, but I decided, I wanted my podcast just to be about sales. So I announced the final episode of Topless Manifester back in February and then moved into my new one, which is called I'm Not Salesy. And so the I'm Not Salesy podcast is a blend of both of them. So, but I wanted people to understand what You know, like if they're going to listen to a manifestation podcast or be looking for one, I didn't want them to get to it and then find all this stuff about sales and business. Like that's not what it was intended to be, right? So I really feel like that intention behind everything can be communicated so well that you can blend the audiences, you know, when you find the commonalities between the two. Because I can now create a podcast episode about manifesting sales or about money or about manifestation and put it on I'm Not Salesy and gear it into that sales and business niche and have it go off without a hitch, right? So look at which niches that you love and where can you start to, you know, create that like bridge the gap there so that they're not two separate things, they become both one discussion, right? So like you might have, for example, like really want to help women live their best lives, but also want to help women create six-figure businesses. So if you create a, you know, if your niche is, or your ideal client in that particular business is women who are mothers who want six-figure businesses, but are really super busy and need to figure out how to do it in a way that works with their life. So they're not like running their business around their life. Then that bridges like the motherhood, you know, motherhood topics can be one of the pillars you talk about, but then the business can be one of the pillars. And then, you know, you get to make it whatever you want, you know, you get to make your message whatever you want it to be. But as long as you're continuing to constantly hit on those like 3 or 4 main topics, then it shouldn't be confusing to the people who follow you. Does that make sense?
It reminds
Absolutely.
me of the ikigai exercise, that Japanese
Oh yeah.
exercise that
Yeah.
is like it means your reason for being, and so it helps you understand, you know, what your superpower is and what the world needs and what you can get paid for, and kind
Yeah.
of combining all that in a
Yeah.
unique way. Yeah.
Totally. I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of times, a lot of people don't make sales because they complicate it, you know? And so if it's confusing to you, then it's gonna be confusing to your buyer too. And so, but a lot
Totally.
of times it's confusing because we're making it a bigger deal than it needs to be, you know, instead of just looking at it from, or maybe just like looking too close in instead of taking that 20,000-foot view and chunking up and seeing like, where are the main themes going on here, you know?
Yeah.
Where like if my business was an Etsy store, then what would it look like? You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, but there was one,
All those ethereal questions. Yeah.
right? There was one tip I always give my clients is with your messaging. If you can't like call up your brother who, if especially if you have a family member that has absolutely nothing to do with the industry that you're in, like doesn't do anything in it. Like maybe you have a brother who's a swim coach at the YMCA and just plays video games every like the rest of the day. If you call him up and you explain your messaging to him and tell him what your offer is about, if he can't understand that, then
Yeah.
it needs to be tightened up a little bit, right? Like as I
Yeah.
typically will talk to somebody, you know, and be like, well, this is what it's about. And this is what it, and if they give me a blank stare, I'm like, okay, I got to go back and refine that one a little bit. Cause it should just be spelled out, like no guesswork. Cause if there's guesswork, people are just gonna, like your brain just already wants to reject something that you're buying typically. Right. But like you're, you don't want to leave any kind of room for interpretation, you know?
Yeah, our brains don't wanna work that hard. They wanna be efficient. They
Yeah.
wanna burn calories, and, like, I tell my clients a similar thing. I say, "Explain it to me like you would your mom or your
Yeah.
grandma,"
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And if they don't get it, then your audience isn't gonna get it, because we are our own worst enemies. We use our jargon because 'cause we're so
Yeah.
schooled in this thing that we do,
Yeah.
but other people don't know what we know, so we talk over their heads, and that's
Mhm.
a big problem. So simplifying definitely will help. All right. Well, we've got a couple more questions here for you.
Cool. On.
I want to know what kinds of things are feeding your mind and soul today, or right now. Like, is there a book you're reading,
Mm.
podcast you always listen to, or a guru you follow online? What kinds of things?
Yeah, I so recently now I'm trained in NLP, hypnosis, like EFT, energy healing. I actually have multidimensional gifts. We won't get into that because that's like extra on the woo scale. But like But lately, what I've really gotten into is breath work. And I made fun of my husband 2 years ago for every night before bed, he'd read a book called Breathe or Breath or whatever. I forget who wrote it. And he got into like Wim Hof and the breathing and all. And I'm like, are you honestly reading a book about something that you've been doing for 40 years? Like, come on, come on. Like, is there anything else? Like, do you literally have to read a book on breathing? It's in or out, like your kids and the dog, like in or out, which one? And so, but lately I actually interviewed a friend, like, like one of the internet friends, people like you've been in a course with years ago. And so recently I interviewed a friend, Alessandra, on my podcast, and she has gotten breathwork certified and created these breathworks that are around around like getting over your money, like limiting beliefs around money or limiting beliefs around sales or limiting beliefs around visibility and having a business and getting big, right? And so she was talking about this and she was running a free challenge, and I popped into it because I was like, oh, let's just see what this is all about. And it made me feel so good because what she does is she'll work in some of like the subconscious patterning and like what you're holding on to and what you can release in that moment and connect it to your breath, and the energy you build from it is like so incredible. So lately I've been really into adding that to my like daily routine, to be
Okay,
honest.
that's interesting you say that because I made another friend on LinkedIn yesterday, and we were talking about that yesterday, breath work and cold showers. I actually tried my first cold shower a couple days
Now I'm
ago.
not that crazy, but hey,
Yeah, apparently I am.
the cold plunge is really hot right now. I mean, no pun
Yeah, it
intended.
is. It's
I didn't even mean to make that.
Yeah. Oh, the pun. The pun.
No, I did not intend for that one, but it came out. It was perfect timing.
I know people who do those ice plunges.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
husband did that.
Yeah. Mel
Yeah.
Robbins. Have you ever watched her do that? She'll go
Oh,
out. She's
no.
got a barrel
Yeah.
out in her backyard and it's full of ice water. And I'm like, oh,
That's next level
you know
crazy.
what?
My
I
husband
grew
did
up
that.
real poor. We had our gas shut off a few times. I've taken
Yeah.
cold showers. They
Yeah.
weren't fun.
I know. Yeah. I even did it in Costa Rica, but it wasn't by choice. It was like, oh, we just don't have the hot water here. Everybody in the
Apparently it's
resort.
very good for you, so there's that.
Yeah. My husband likes to do those. He goes, well, our Gulf here doesn't really get very, very cold, but it'll get down to when you guys are on Celsius. So it'll get down to Fahrenheit, like around maybe 60 degrees, I think. And he'll go out. He loves doing the cold plunges out there, but I'm like, I'm all for getting out of my comfort zone, but that would be a real stretch for me, for sure.
Cassie, I moved here from Canada or from Kansas to
Oh,
Canada. And so one of the things I find very interesting, you know what Canadians do? They
what?
do what's called a polar dip at the New Year's. And like they'll go out in their skivvies, trudging through knee deep snow to
Yeah.
jump in water. I'm going,
Like, we were in Cape Town actually in June. We went to South Africa for the month of June last year, and it was
Which is winter over there.
yeah,
It's the
and here it's
opposite,
in
right?
the middle of their
Yeah,
winter,
yeah.
and we were in Camps Bay, and it was so cold. Like, the wind was blowing and everything, and it felt cold, but there was this group of, like, 40 men that all got down into their Speedos and went out into the water, and it must have been like, even my husband wouldn't get in that water, and that was saying a lot because it was
yeah.
cold. Like,
Oh,
great.
one thing at a time, folks. Let's just conquer one thing at a time. You'll work up to the polar dips, I promise. I'm still at the mildly tepid dip, so
Yeah.
that's with nobody around and in my grandma swimsuit.
Mhm.
So, where can people find you, Cassie, if they want to engage? I am going to pull this up because I found this fascinating.
Yeah.
Manifest 3K in 3 weeks.
Mhm.
So tell us where they can find you and tell us a little bit about this book that you have.
Yeah, so I wrote Manifest 3K in 3 weeks, 2 years ago, actually. I think it was 2, it might have been 3. Well, it doesn't matter. It came out in May 2 years ago, and This is a 21-day challenge to introduce you into money manifestation and a lot of the energetic principles that I taught my manifestation and money clients. And this gets you in a habit. So the average time it takes for somebody to adopt a new habit is 21 days of consistent action, and then it becomes part of your daily life. So I created this challenge as a way for you to really open up the flow of abundance and start to allow more money into your life. It gives you a chance to see maybe where you've been blocking it, where some channels are to open, where you've been leaving it on the table, or maybe your relationship hasn't been the best with money, and how, just how to get rid of the blocks and make making money a whole lot easier on you. So this book's available on Amazon. You can order it all over the world, and it's also on Kindle. So it's fun. I love it. And I go back to these principles all the time.
Nice.
Excellent. And your website, we've got your website up. If you could just give us your website and everything for the audio aspect.
For sure. So I'm at CassieMackenzie.com, and you can also find me on LinkedIn at Cassie Mackenzie. Like I said, just did a 4-day challenge called the Red Hot Audience Boot Camp, and currently opening a mastermind that's opening at the end of this month called the Sales Queen Takeover, where I'm teaching you how to add the energetics and the strategy to DM sales and selling so that it makes it a fun process that's aligned and something that you can do every day. And plus with the accountability aspect, like the thing I find is even the best salespeople know the steps to take. You can learn all their strategy, but if you don't have somebody there holding you accountable to be like, okay, here's the things you said you're going to do. This is what you're going to actually do. I want to see what your results are. Let's work through it. And, like work through those moments where you need to send a DM or you want to send a DM, but you're not sure what to say and you might need a little help. Kind of like when you're dating and you look to your friend, like, what should I text back? You know what I mean? I do a lot of that, like helping people walk through the process so it's not so scary anymore. It doesn't have to be scary, but I acknowledge that it is because it's scary sometimes for me, even. I get in my head about it.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Yeah.
all need that wing person, that wing woman or wing man by our side to just push us
Yeah.
the extra mile.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
of
what better
course.
way than to have have a community of people doing that with you while you're stepping out
Yeah.
there and make it fun. Like I'm all about making it fun and taking the pressure off of the process. And while I give you the process that you actually can follow and make it easy so you're not working 12-hour days trying to find clients on LinkedIn or on social media.
Yep, exactly, exactly. Well, final question for you, Cassie,
Ooh.
is what's been the best advice that you've ever received that really put the wind in your sails and helped you go the distance, whether personal or professional, either way?
Well, aside from some of the advice that I was given, when I first started in pharma with, do sales my own way, and form the relationships first. And like I remember my first manager, well, she wasn't really that great, but the next one was. The next one made, like, a huge difference in my life, but he was the one that I had, like, for long term, for a couple of years, and our team was just really high performers. So, the first piece of advice is, and it goes with this story, is, you really are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, like, you absolutely are, and if you surround yourself with the right people and with the right mindset, then you are gonna go places for sure. And in this case, I was surrounded by really top performers and given a great example of what worked for them might work for me, or what works for them might not work for me. And I was told, everybody has their own selling style, and I respect that. So I want you to create your own. And so I did. I went out there and I made it my own and started approach it. And the other thing he said was, I don't want you talking about this product for at least 2 months. Like, I want you going out and forming relationships, finding out about your customers, figuring out what's happening in those offices. What are they going through? What are their challenges? What do they need help with? And then we will start talking at lunches about your product and how that can help them. And honestly, that's what you should just be spending time in the DMs doing for, especially outbound leads. Like inbound, it should be pretty cut and dry what they're going through and work through that process a whole lot faster. But outbound, like just get to know people, get to know people, find out what they're going through, what they're offering. If they're confused about what they're offering, then you can talk them through that too. I mean, especially as like, for example, a branding, if you're a branding consultant, you can take a look at their profile and see where they might need help and start asking, like, how did you come up with this? Like, what is your thought process behind that? What's the biggest challenge when you're, bringing everything all together, and get people talking, because then, people love talking about themselves.
Yes, yes, they certainly do. They certainly do, and it's a great
Absolutely.
icebreaker to just ask about the other
Yeah.
person, right?
For sure.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Awesome. This, you've given me lots to think about, because I think I am in the same space as a lot of entrepreneurs, and kind of stepping outside of your own head, that silo,
Mhm.
right? That
Yeah.
echoes around, like you're saying, the sum of five.
Mhm.
If you're feeling, the things that I'm going to take away from this is, um, get to know the community that you want to serve,
Yes.
know your message, right? ICA can be audience or avatar. Just,
Yeah.
you know, um, and, just it's okay. We're all in this together.
You should
That's kind of
100%.
what I'm taking away from all of this. And then, and a little woo woo is not a bad thing when you're putting some positive energy out towards your goals, right?
Mhm.
So, Angela, final
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah, what I'm taking away from this is always be working on your mindset. Well, as soon as, like what we mentioned before, as soon as you deal with one thing, it's like the whack-a-mole game. As soon as you deal with one aspect of your mindset, sure enough, something's going to pop up over here, especially as you're growing and leveling up, right?
Mhm.
The quote that I always keep in my mind is, what got you here won't get you there.
Mhm.
So we're always having to shift and evolve and dig deeper and find that grit and that tenacity to move forward. And
Yeah.
that's with business, right?
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
and, like, finding where that root is, like, there's a chance that it doesn't have to be around the whack-a-mole so much, and when you're doing the consistent work there, I've noticed
Yeah.
that it all shows common patterns down to, the real root cause there, and
Mhm.
I have a course that called Big Money Vibes, that I used to run y live, and the first module is all around your shadows and shadow work, which is kind of like weird, like the main pillars around your limiting thoughts that keep you from the highest amount of power, right? Like anything that takes you out of your power throughout the day usually falls into four different categories, and they all have something to do with the process of from thought to manifestation. And so it's really interesting, because if you can figure out what that root is and you can shine a light on it, then you can really catch yourself in the act, per se, instead
Yeah.
of having to be so reactive. And I feel like that's why the ongoing mindset work is so important, especially with sales, because it's like working out. Like if I'm walking my dog every morning, then by the end of 2 weeks, it's no problem. But if I take off for a month and then I go back out, I'm going to have a harder time going back out. First of all, I'll find all kinds of reasons not to. And then once I'm out there, I'm like, why is my skin itchy just from walking? It's like the lactic acid's built up that fast. What? So same goes for your mindset, though, because your mind's like so wanting to take you back to where it used to be, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you guys, ladies. Thank you,
Yeah,
ladies.
thank you.
Amazing. Amazing.
Thank
This
you.
was definitely the best 60 minutes of my day. Thank you so much. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, Cassie. Thanks for joining us and for all your great tips. I'm sure everyone listening will benefit from them. So, and good luck with your upcoming course that you're launching.
I'm so
That's super
excited.
exciting.
Yes, yes. We're gonna
Yeah.
Such a
I'll
fun
be
time.
watching you from the shadows on LinkedIn. I'll be cheering you on
Yay,
as I
thank
always do.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Amazing.
the opportunity. I really enjoyed this.
Anything that goes into your business, from your foundational piece of branding all the way up to how do I put a video together? Come on, folks. It's all on here, and we're talking to amazing people. They're going to help us all grow our business. Until next time, this show is sponsored by Be Bold Branding. For knockout brands that get you noticed, visit BeBoldBranding.ca and download your free Bold Brand Manifesto. Thank you for joining us here at Rising Tides, your business podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share. And you can follow Angela and Kim over on LinkedIn.